Before becoming a teacher, my wife worked as a lifeguard, and one day, this woman came in for swimming lessons, but she refused to get her hair wet. She told my wife, just get in the water and show me what to do. I'm a really good visual learner. So what ends up happening? Did she learn how to swim? Nope. Week after week, she just observed the moves, paid $50 for private lessons, and never got in the water. Her hair looked great though. And to you and me, that seems ridiculous. Yet, when it comes to learning guitar, so many people approach it in a similar way, spending far more time watching, more time finding the right tab or the right chord chart, collecting books with scale diagrams, and far less time actually doing the hands-on work that makes you better. And it's not my goal today to make you feel ashamed of that. We all do it. Today, I want to share with you a way to take that habit and use it to fuel your passion, fuel your creativity, and ultimately learn guitar better. Now, I hate it when a YouTube video has a catchy thumbnail, but never actually addresses it. So let's address this head on. You are not a visual learner. The idea of learning styles like visual, auditory, kinesthetic learners, it's a popular idea, but research shows little evidence to back it up. People don't learn better by sticking to a single style. They learn by engaging multiple senses and actively practicing. Sure, you might have a preference for visual aids or for listening, but effective learning goes beyond preferences. Studies suggest that people learn better when the instructional method matches the content. So, for example, visual aids do work for geometry because shapes are pretty darn visual. But with music, it's mostly a listening thing. You definitely need to watch people's technique, see how they move their arm in a certain way and just see what it's supposed to look like, because that is going to translate into the proper motions and everything. But the majority of what makes you sound good comes from listening and feeling the music. So now I want to share with you my method for taking all of that observing and turning it into a way to get motivated, to build momentum, and to practice more, practice for longer. You want to treat observation as part of your practice. Yes, watching is passive, but it can fuel your excitement and prepare you for that hands-on work. I like to call it research and development. And here's how it works. You spend 10 to 15 minutes watching videos of cool guitarists, exploring songs you love, or looking through your learning materials. And this is your time to get excited and dream about the guitarist that you want to be. Visualize yourself playing that amazing solo as everybody in the crowd cheers. And then it's just a matter of, as you're feeling that inspiration, to go sit down and get your guitar. Have it ready, have it on a stand, tuned up, ready to go, and start practicing, and on days where you don't really feel like doing it, I find that's the system. When you're like, I should really sit down and start practicing. Instead, I start daydreaming about guitar. And then I go and I sit down, and that just inspires me to use that inspiration to dive into at least 15 minutes of actual practice, an equal amount of observing and practice. And I'll be honest, some days you just don't feel like sitting down and working on your chord switches or your scales or that new song that you're learning. And I find that leveraging the visual material, using it to inspire you, well, it really works for me. And more often than not, after, watching Brian May rock the solo to A Kind of Magic, I find myself transcribing it and working out the licks. Now, before we go, I want to address one other common thing, which is collecting sheet music or tabs and not knowing how to play the songs in them. Once again, I don't mean to hit a sore spot. Don't get me wrong. Having those resources is great. I have shelves full of them. But here's the truth. The amount of effort that you put into learning things from tab could be put into learning things by ear. And by the time you rough it out, because let's be honest, learning stuff by ear is really hard at first. It's really discouraging at first. But if you stick with it, eventually it'll actually save you time, which is ironically the thing that acquiring tab promises in the first place, but ultimately fails to deliver. And there are a few reasons for this. First and foremost, it doesn't capture the groove. You can't hear or feel the song off the page. So if you're going to use tab, definitely make sure that you have a recording and a tab that accurately represents that recording. Because a lot of the time you look at the tab and be like, that does not sound like what I'm listening to. And that's a really good way to start leaning into your ear more. Believe your ear more than you believe the tab. Another thing is just the little nuances, like the slight delays or accents. They can't fully be captured. Accent marks, they just tell you to play louder, but how much louder? 10%, 15%. Those subtleties, once again, only come from listening. That's why your idols learned by ear. They listened to the original recordings and they copied what they heard, and you can do the same. I have 2 really basic exercises for you. The first one, pick a simple song, like a nursery rhyme, and try to play the melody by ear, like Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. And take as long as you need, but actually push through. Do that 5 or 6 times, and suddenly you have a new skill that you thought was unattainable. And the second thing you can try is you could use those same simple songs and try to guess the chords, or we could actually, dive into some actual like cool songs, some real songs. Just a shameless plug here. I have a song finder on my website that'll let you filter song tutorials by the number of chords, difficulty, and so on. So, for example, you just filter it down to songs with 3 chords. Then I'll pick a random one here, Bang a Gong. And before I click on it, I'm gonna load up the recording on Spotify. This is the missing element here. We're gonna load up the recording. We know that the song only has 3 chords because the song finder told us that. And then we're just gonna kind of randomly guess chords, and you just try like a G chord. Nah, it doesn't really sound like it. You go through the chords and maybe you'll land on E and be like, oh yeah, that's definitely in there. And you have matched a chord to something you're listening to. That is ear training. And when you've had enough, maybe you hit a wall, you're getting frustrated, just click on the lesson and a page comes up, shows you what's in the song, and there you go, there's your answer key. So ultimately my point here is it's not bad to watch a bunch of cool guitar stuff. That's what gets you started in the first place. It's just important to recognize that as you're watching that stuff, you're gonna hit a point where you might as well start practicing before you start getting bored of watching guitar stuff and go do something else, So just taking advantage of that momentum and transferring it into your own playing. Now, when it comes to learning guitar, if you need any help, let me know in the comments down below. I'd really appreciate it if you could subscribe to my channel, like the video and all that, especially if you enjoy learning guitar with me. You can also check out my courses. They'll guide you step by step through everything, like a blueprint to get you inspired and to get you practicing and to know exactly what to do to get better and to reach your goals. There's links down below for all that stuff in the description. Have a fun time practicing, and I'll see you soon.